LeBron just tone deaf to how to respect the coach? Because I thought that David Blatt was the recipient of a lot of lack of respect from LeBron James and his teammates.
Well, Michael, first off, I'll give you a pass, but it's St. Vincent, St. Mary.
I'm sorry.
But I'll give you a pass.
Thank you.
LeBron, first off, LeBron makes a soliloquy statement yesterday, and it's basically, I don't want to say they're full of lies, but they're full of canards, where he says that he's never disrespected or undermined a coach. Of course he has. And it wasn't just David Blatt. It was other coaches in the past. I mean, I tell a story about Mike Krzyzewski. The first time LeBron worked with Mike Krzyzewski with Team USA, Krzyzewski wanted to cut him after training camp, didn't want to take him to Japan for the World Championships in 2006. So LeBron's hard on coaches. And absolutely, LeBron had respect issues with David Blatt. You're talking about putting him in and out of a game. Okay, that's one thing. He changed his position last year. Just one game, LeBron decided he was going to play point guard and Kyrie Irving was going to play off guard. And after the game, when we asked him about it, he said, I didn't tell David Blatt. I'm at the point where I don't have to do that. So, of course, he disrespected him. But I do think that LeBron is stung and hurting by the fact that people are calling him a coach killer, because he had at least come to grips with living with David Blatt. I think he was way, way more on edge with David Blatt a year ago than he is now. I think he'd come to terms with living with him, and I think it was other people in the Cavs organization, including the general manager, who finally came to the conclusion that they couldn't live with him. And so, yeah, LeBron heavily contributed to his firing, but he didn't fire him. And for some people, I realize that that's something people aren't going to split the difference on, but I do think it does matter, especially to him.
Well, it's the semantic game. It's like, Michael didn't kill Fredo. He had Fredo killed. I mean, they obviously lost faith in Blatt. They saw what was going on based on the histrionics of LeBron James, where Blatt's wandering around a coach's huddle and James is barking out plays, where plays are being changed, like in that Bulls game. And, the thing that aggravated me about LeBron, and Michael and I both like LeBron, so this is coming from fans of his, where it's a semantics game, because he believes, because he's a basketball savant, that the coach should not feel insulted by being disrespected because he's smarter than the coach. But that's going to come off as very arrogant, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is semantics, but I would say it's more like K. It was Michael with K, because he didn't care about K, and LeBron didn't care about Blatt. He didn't order the hit. And again, maybe it doesn't matter to anybody, but it does matter to LeBron. And at the end of the day, what I think LeBron is saying is, in his career, he's butted heads with coaches. But coaches have benefited way, way more than they've suffered. There's a whole bunch of guys in LeBron's past who've gotten contract extensions, who've gotten trophies, who've gotten awards, who've gotten second chances. There's 4 or 5 guys who he's been a part of their careers who got head coaching jobs because of their relationship with him. So I'm not saying, I don't think there's anything you can absolve him all on Blatt. I think that's definitely the case. But I also don't think it's necessarily fair for you to say that this guy always acts this way and has for a long time.
You know what's interesting to me, though, Brian? Why is he defending himself so vigorously about being a coach killer? There's a great history of coach killing throughout sports. Magic Johnson with Paul Westhead is job one, and you could go up and down. It's stuff that we've never heard of. He's the best player. He actually increases the value of the team close to $500 million by being on it. Of course he's going to have the power. What's there to be ashamed of? Even if his blood is not on his hands, the way he treated Blatt is what led the organization to think we can't have this guy here anymore.
That sounds like a New York values comment there.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
That is, hey, I'm going to agree with you. I mean, on one section, you could just own it. You could just say, hey, listen, this is the way it's going to be. But he's stung by it. I can tell you for sure he's hurting by this, by the altercation that he brought him down. He brought him down with 1,000 paper cuts. Basically, he kneecapped him. As long as we're going with more mob references, he kneecapped him, and he undercut him for so long that he had total control anyway. And ultimately, this is going to be a key thing that affects his legacy, because when he's 45 years old, the way this plays out, will affect the way people view this section of his career. And what happens in this Cleveland part of his career is extremely important to him. He's viewing it as this chase as the thing that he was, born to do. So it's going to be important in the long term to him.
Why does he care so much what people think?
Because he's a professional athlete who has, so many people who, he's always worried about his brand. He's very, very sensitive to that.
And I also have to imagine, sorry, Brian, I also have to imagine, maybe not literally, but in the street, and on the way, he has to know that everyone is saying to Blatt, "Oh, shame what LeBron did." And meanwhile, he's going, "But I didn't even say he had to get fired."
But every player is probably supporting him behind the scenes.
Yeah, look, if you were around the team every day, you would not have been surprised that David Blatt got fired. I realize if you were a fan in Israel where they treat Blatt like a deity, if you were a fan who wasn't closely following, you thought everything was fine. But if you were around the Cavs every day and saw the way the team and LeBron treated him, when that came down last week, you were surprised at the timing, but you weren't surprised at the action.
Now, in your opinion, Brian, do you think that they will eventually trade Kevin Love?
I don't think it'll happen now because I think they have to see how Tyronn Lue's system works here. But I think there's 3 or 4 teams that if Golden State, blasts their way to another title and slaps the team that gets to the finals, whether that's Cleveland or not, around and wins by 30 a bunch of times, I think there's going to be a bunch of teams that reevaluate their rosters. I think the Clippers are one of them right now, where if they can't advance pretty far in the playoffs, they've got to reevaluate it. And maybe the Cavs have to reevaluate it, especially this summer where there's going to be a whole bunch of opportunities to move players because of the immense amount of salary cap space out there. So I think that's something that maybe they evaluate in July, not right now.
Now, one final thing. Your story, which I thought was fascinating, if you all want to read it, ESPN.com, it was a couple of days ago, the backroom machinations to get Mark Jackson to be represented essentially by LeBron's company or his buddy's company, trying to get Lou to be represented. Why is the NBA allowing that? It is such a blatant conflict of interest.
Well, under the letter of the law, representatives who represent players aren't supposed to represent coaches, but they stopped enforcing that rule like 10 years ago. And so now a lot of players keep their agent who they had as a player, and all the player agents generally have signed up coaches.
Right.
So that's already – now you have LeBron, who's got a representation with his close friend, Rich Paul. Now you have an active player who essentially John Wall, for example, just this week signed with Rich Paul's company, which is basically associated with LeBron. Now, the one thing that I will call a halt to is the idea that LeBron or his representation cares about the commission of a coach's contract. I mean, these guys negotiated Tristan Thompson and Eric Bledsoe's deal, and they just picked up John Wall. They're looking at contracts for $80 to $100 million. They're not worried about a guy who's got a $9 million contract. It's not about the commission. It's more about LeBron likes Mark Jackson, respects Mark Jackson, wants him to get hired, and has his business associate representing him. It's not about the money. But here's what I'll just say. Anybody that believes that LeBron runs the Cavs franchise, I'm going to say 2 things. If you think LeBron runs them, LeBron would have fired David Blatt 15 months ago or 14 months ago if he ran the team. Secondly, if he ran the team, it probably would have been Mark Jackson. But Blatt made it to this year, and Mark Jackson's not the coach. So LeBron battles with the perception that he runs it. He has massive influence, no doubt about that. But he doesn't run the team. He just has to put up with the hassles of people who think he runs the team.